teased it a while. If you followed our sweepstakes series, Billy and I were talking about a special project. Here's the special project.
Alive and moving under its own power.
What inspired you to
Building the Supras, BMWs, the Supras. I've always liked the body style of them, liked the rear end of them. Not the biggest fan of the chassis overall. I always told myself if I were to buy one, I would never pay more than 40K for it, and I would LS swap it at least within the first year of ownership if I were to buy one. Ended up trading my E92 M3 for it with a buddy in Oklahoma, and actually fell in love with the car.
This is kind of on par and in nature for Billy to kind of do something insane. The big plan kind of was like, well, let's get one of our baddest motors in there. So we devised a nasty 427 setup on it. What is it, a 103?
It's a 88 103 with the TSP 427. It's got an adapter plate made by Guru Autoworks for the 8HP. Built by ATS. So it's got an 8HP 70, stage 3, fully built, Ford rear end, aluminum drive shaft, G-force axles, max ECU, tuned by Drayson, who also did the sweepstakes truck. So far it's been a pretty killer combo.
And I think it's first in the world, I believe. First in the world. And for those, yes, the hood closes, everything is, you probably need like a little, I think you said you wanted to do like that nice little plate on it.
My buddy is making a little scoop to go in that will rivet on, and then I'm gonna have our 3D scanning guy 3D scan the hood and the fender, and he's gonna make the bezels for us, and we'll cut it out a little bit wider so it clears more. Everyone knows me for sticking turbos out of the hood, so I figured I'd stick with it.
I mean, honestly, it's really clean. I kind of like how it looks with everything, and that's gonna be, oh my goodness,
so
that looks awesome.
Our TSP 427 with the PRC heads, TSP valve covers.
The goal was to make 14, 15, right? I think was kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, 15, 16, once we max this turbo out and move on to a bigger turbo. This turbo, from what everyone's telling us with this setup, should probably max out around 1200 if we're lucky, just because it's a lot of motor, a lot of air moving, and the housings aren't going to be able to keep up with the goals that we want for this.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean,
1500, and then ideally crack the 7s really is what we're trying to do.
Biggest thing is crack the 7s. If we can get into the 8s with the setup as is, we'll be super happy, which I don't think will take very much. So fingers crossed that works out. We're gonna start dialing it in on the track this weekend.
The B58 boys are definitely mad. Nobody's mad? Nobody's mad. Is it fake news?
No, it's not fake news, but nobody's mad.
Nobody's mad? I think everyone loves it. I mean, it looks so sick, honestly. Russell did a really good job with this turbo kit here. It still has the brake and oil, so we're gonna do a quick oil change and then go take it for a little drive. I guess a lot of the goal was to try and make this as OEM as possible.
So it's the original 8351 Supra cross member. It's all the original pans and everything. This is the original pan. I just chopped it because I'm running an oversized filter. We have the LS engine brackets made from Mike at LSE9X to bolt the motor, to F30 motor mounts from RevShift. We have the 8HP adapter plate to go to our 8HP. I put the Ford rear end in the car when it was still B58. Since this 8HP 70 is the same exact footprint as 8HP 51, and I'm using the same Supra cross member for the chassis.
So pretty much everything here is Supra.
It's all Supra stuff. So I can take a B58 with the Supra transmission, bolt it back in here, and it'll bolt right up. The way the motor is positioned with the transmission, it's all factory location technically.
Right.
So you can keep your whole drivetrain when you go LS swap. So
that's awesome.
Once there's another way to control the Supra transmission with the LS, which you probably can with turbo lamps and stuff. At that point, all you would need is the LS and the adapter plate, and you can bolt it straight in. You can keep your whole drive line. Wow. At that point, you're only changing the engine.
That's wild.
So that was the whole idea behind it. So
and
the spacing is all set up.
I mean, cost-wise, a B58 is, from what I heard, if you're chasing, let's say, 1,1200 horsepower, I know you guys build a lot of them. What you're looking at, 30 to 35, maybe 40 for a fully built motor, top to bottom, or?
So with labor, it gets up there pretty quick. On average, the B58s will run anywhere from 20 to 25 grand for a nice sleeved one, and they'll hold good power around 12, 1300, sometimes 14.
Yeah.
But the problem is the B58s are notorious for blowing the heads off. They can't.
Right.
There's no head gasket that they can get to keep the heads on versus like the S58s and the G80s and stuff.
Right.
The heads have way more structure to them. They're way more reinforced, so they don't flex, so they don't blow out the gaskets
Right.
versus B58.
So really, this would be a good viable option for people that don't want to go down the expensive route of doing a B58.
Yep. I mean, you can
Do
you
an
can
LS
go,
swap. I
You
mean,
can go balls to the walls with a crazy nice motor, or you can do
5.3 junkyard
You can do a
5.3,
junkyard
yeah.
5.3 pull for $600 and
For
toss
sure.
it in there, gap your rings,
Yeah.
and bolt on a big turbo and
That's
have
awesome.
some fun.
That's crazy. You're a madman.
But other than that, I mean, we have custom fuel system. So we have I retained the factory brushless fuel pump, which is also paired now with dual Walbro 535s. So it's got a lot of fuel flow. So we're testing out an AFS system from Precision Raceworks to see how well it flows. So we've got two feeds, two dual 8AN feeds to a 10AN 10 micron filter back to dual 8ANs to feed the motor.
Right.
And then the 8AN return. Everything's all literally plug and play. So it's been, honestly, like bolting all the parts on was a breeze. I have never done Max ECU before, so that was a little bit new to me,
Right,
a
so
little bit challenging.
The
but
tuning and software is honestly the hardest because no one's done it.
at
So
this
it's,
point, yeah, nobody's.
And I think you mentioned there's no schematics on
So
the Supra
for Toyota
wiring.
Supra, there are no wiring schematics available whatsoever, but you can look up a G29, which is the BMW Z4, which everyone jokes it's the same car, and it actually is the same car down to the wire colors and everything. It's
Oh
identical.
my goodness.
Other than it's not convertible.
Right.
So that's how I've been getting by, trying to figure out all the wiring stuff and wire tracing and getting everything powered up and working. We have fully functional dash, which nobody thought was going to
So
happen.
AC steering.
So AC compressors in there. The lines are not made yet because the Supra and all the new BMWs use a water-cooled condenser,
Got
which
it.
we got rid of all that stuff, deleted the heat exchanger, make room for the bigger intercooler.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do just your average bolt-on condenser and
Do you have the
receiver
electric
dryer.
steering?
So electric steering is working,
Nice.
which that works on FlexRay, and that was a whole nother headache. But we got the electric steering working, the fan is working because that's on LIN bus, so the Max ECU cannot control that. So we had to find another way to get control of that. And
Jeez.
the cluster, we wanted to get control over as well. That way,
Sounds like a cluster.
yeah, that way when you start the motor, you have a full-blown cluster. So we have speed, we have RPM. It's super responsive, extremely on point. So far, so good. Still a lot of little kinks to work
Right.
out, but I mean, for it being the first one ever, and there is no data in terms of Canvas and FlexRay on this chassis. Nobody's done it.
You're right.
So
This is new.
it's new, and it is not fun. I'll definitely say that. But
Yeah.
we've made, I'd say, for the 2 weeks that we've spent on this thing, late nights, getting it running, getting it happy, it's been worth it so far. It starts up every time. It sounds great. We're gonna have some fun with this
All
thing.
right. Well, let's get the oil drained and take this thing for a little cruise around. See how it feels.
Sounds good. How tight did I make this thing? Jesus.
You gave it the old. She's not coming off.
I guess so. I had to pull the pan off after fabrication and get the turbo drain bung welded on it because I got too excited when I got the motor from TSP, put it in the car, primed it, got it all set up, and then like, time for fabrication. Completely forgot there's 7 quarts of oil in this pan, and the fabricator is not going to remove the pan, drain the oil, and take care of all that for me.
So what's the weight? What are we talking?
3,400 pounds with everything in it. This is still full interior, full trunk. I mean, you look at the inside, and other than it having a BMW F-Series shifter, you'd have no idea what was going on with this thing.
I'm curious to see if that additional weight will help with traction because I know Supras sometimes tend to have.
Now that you mentioned that, that was one interesting thing is that the weight balance on this car is almost near perfect 50-50 now versus all the other Supras are normally heavier in the front versus the rear.
That's 8.8. That's because of the 8.8.
That's another thing is 8.8 is also pretty chunky and heavy. But yeah, this car is almost near perfect 50-50 weight balance. We still need to get some good custom alignment done and corner balancing. But overall, I mean, we're pretty happy with it. we'll put it on a diet before TX2K, and I'll let Mike go to town gutting the interior, and he loves doing that stuff. But because I decided to do fender exit, I had to delete the jump posts and power distribution block out of the cubby on the passenger side, so I lose my jump post in case the battery ever dies. So the solution was to put in some jumper posts wired in with a kill switch, so that even when the car is off, I can maintain the battery, and if the car happens to die on me, if I leave the kill switch on or forget to turn the car off, then at that point I'm able to go ahead and just jump start it right from the back of the car, which is pretty convenient.
That's nice.
Everyone lost funnels here. Don't ask about the contraption.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. This
if
oil won't be in here too long anyways, it's all good. This is oil change number 2. Pope says to run it a little bit, get some more heat cycles in. And when we drain this oil out, then we do a head stud retorque and move on to the next level of oil. So we're just gonna cruise around, and we just gotta get some lugs for Drayson. He just did a new fuel map and a couple other little tweaks, so hopefully it'll allow us to go watt. Let's see how she does. This will be the longest straightaway cruise that I'll get to do with it. Most throttle I've ever gotten to give it.
Really? How many, what was that, like half throttle?
That's about half. I saw the wastegate open for the first time.
Oh, so really?
It's only got a 3 PSI spring in there while we get it dialed in. That's a little more than 3 PSI. I should probably plumb the wastegate to make sure we stay at 3 PSI.
That's pretty nasty.
That's a lot more intoxicating than I thought it would be. Not gonna lie.
This is such a wild experience.
I'd say the bass tune's pretty good, so thank you, Drayson.
That thing is so sick. That's why that's gonna be a lot.
He literally built it in like 2 weeks.
That's gonna be a handful for sure.
Nah, it's gonna be a fast car.
That's gonna be a really fast car.
We just need to get weight off of it.
Yeah.
Because the car is gonna need a full cage.
Yeah.
It's gonna need a roll cage.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna need a roll cage.
We need to get weight off of it.
Billy, you're a madman. That was insane.
It's just the start.
That was insane. Billy's heading down to Florida. He's doing a track event this weekend. Goals? 10s? 9s?
No way, dude. Come on.
We'll see what happens.
Get it running. I know
We want
super
to get
early.
it dialed in and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which it seems like it does.
Yeah,
what it
it
needs to be
definitely
doing.
does a nasty burnout. That thing sounds like a NASCAR.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think Drayson will probably have me run the 8th for a little while, and then depending on how busy the track is on Sunday, we'll be at OSW, and we'll see how well It does.
I think
and if
definitely
you-
get the 8 down and suspension because that
and
thing was a
definitely
little
suspension. Yeah, it's
loosey-goosey.
It does the Supra shuffle.
Yeah.
So it's going to need a really good alignment. It wakes up way quicker than I thought it would, and it's way peppier than I thought it would be.
Well, we'll get some videos from them on the next episode from the track day and stuff. In the meantime, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coverage of this build as we start tuning it, kind of getting it dialed in. We'll get some numbers and hopefully, you know, start chasing those quarter-mile numbers and
Very soon.
and make some history with it. So anyway, guys, have a good night. See you on the next one.